All right, so raise your hand if you're not a fan of the eight-legged monstrosities that are known as spiders. As somebody who can't stand the creepy crawlies, I subjected myself to the new spider horror Sting. It's hitting theaters very soon, but is it effective in giving you the willies? After raising an unnervingly talented spider in secret, 12-year-old Charlotte must face the facts about her pet and fight for her family's survival when the once charming creature rapidly transforms into a giant flesh-eating monster. This is a weird mix of a movie. It's part family drama, part sci-fi, little comedy, and eventually a whole lot of savagery. Now, not all of it gels effectively, but when it does click, there's a lot of stressful fun to be had. Now, the entire film takes place in an apartment building during a massive snowstorm, meaning that everybody is pretty much locked in, including Charlotte, the young girl that the story follows, along with her mom, stepdad, baby brother, grandma, and great aunt. Now, the family owns the building, which then allows Charlotte to have a little more free reign throughout than she normally might. And she does then take advantage of that. The story's first act works to get us invested in the family, seeing how they're creative and tight-knit, but also somewhat strained. Now, this is a little slow in the progression, but it does allow us to see all of the dynamics that help to inform some of the character behaviors and decisions. Like when Charlotte discovers some freaky-looking black spider and decides to keep it as a pet. And eventually, we learn why we don't bring strays home. Right at the beginning of the movie, the story takes on an arc that wildly resembles Little Shop of Horrors. There's no singing, but the antagonist of the film, the spider, grows exponentially after feeding, and eventually turns into something well beyond nightmare fuel. Now, if you're into bugs and you are a stickler for details, you know that spiders don't sting, they bite. But the movie's title, Sting, it is explained and then it makes sense. Now, the film opens with a tense moment and then takes us back several days to fill in all of the details. There's slow tension that's built, but more so, it's an unsettling feeling as we watch Charlotte just get more and more connected with this spider. And there's also growing anxiety thanks to the mounting stress that Charlotte's stepdad is beginning to feel because of work pressures and financial woes. Now, I'm not sure all of his behaviors feel natural, but we can feel that mounting stress as it grows until a pivotal moment. And then, from that point on, this is backcrap crazy. And this is when the movie actually gets the most engaging, and it finally settles into the entire reason we watch a movie like this. The pace in the film's final act, it is urgent and driving. I mean, if you were bored or wondering when something was really going to happen, that wait is over. Now, it isn't to say that we don't get any carnage up until this point, but it pales in comparison to the intensity and apprehension that is delivered at the end. And while during most of the first half of the film, we don't see the spider other than very brief glimpses, we do get some horrifying visuals later on. And that CGI and then either the puppetry or animatronics, they're pretty convincing. And I was impressed with the weightlessness that the spider appears to have, which I think is very similar to a lot of spiders. And this allows the creature to move about almost silently just throughout the locations, able to sneak up on unsuspecting prey and then deliver its deadly bites. And I just love the reactions that we get when the characters see the spider for the very first time. I mean, it's a look of abject horror accompanied by guttural screams. And if I were to see this thing in real life, I mean, I would definitely need to change my shorts because the spider, it's just nasty. I mean, it resembles a black widow with its body shape and the spindly legs, but its size is what creates the most terror. And I also appreciate that the story, it's not afraid to go after victims that typically would be off limits in movies. This adds another level of dread and amps up the potential peril for our characters. Now, for as fun as the final act is, and for as tense as the first half of the movie can get at times, this is a very uneven presentation that alternates too frequently between its focuses and its emotional states. We're also given many repetitive shots, especially with the camera working its way through air ducts. This loses effectiveness rather quickly. When it was in very small doses, the ductwork is claustrophobic and it reverberates disquieting sounds, like chitterings and light tappings of multiple nasty legs scurrying along. The age of the ducts, it also helps to build a foreboding environment. I mean, they're filthy and they're covered in either grease or moldy slime, or maybe both. But either way, it's gross. And then because of the uneven tonal structure of so much of the movie, it's somewhat hard to be engaged in all that's going on. I mean, when there are creepy elements, the narrative works to draw us in, but then we'll break that quickly with just some ill-defined drama. And then despite the short runtime of only 91 minutes, the pace does make the time noticeable, until we are heading towards the insanity. And then everything ramps up. The urgency, pacing, gore, suspense. I mean, everything gets a massive shot of adrenaline. And while this is an awesome way to wrap up the movie, it did make me wish that there had been more of that just sprinkled throughout. I still enjoyed some of the skin-crawling intrigue that's shown to us, and even sometimes a little bit of the comedy worked, but the family drama, it occasionally was too much in the forefront for how vaguely it was created. So overall, Sting uses something initially tiny to create huge fears and dread. The story is unevenly built with ill-defined family dynamics and drama that sometimes is too obviously working at being emotional. When the narrative focuses on the creature and the fear it creates, that's when the story finds its groove and will make you say nope. The effects, creature design, and puppeteering are excellent in their execution, perfectly mimicking the slow and silent movements of a gnarly arachnid. Now, I'm not sure this surpasses arachnophobia in terms of freaky scenes, but the final act of Sting does give any other creature feature a run for its money as chaos ensues and the body count grows. If you're going to see this in the theater, I think it's going to be a spectacular experience if you see it with a packed house. That way everybody has the same visceral reaction simultaneously. There's no sex or nudity, a lot of profanity, and a bunch of violence. I give Sting 3 out of 5 couches. Alright, so do you have a phobia? I mean, I have an irrational fear of spiders. Sometime I'm going to have to share about how I broke my foot trying to get away from an 8-legged freak. In the meantime, though, let me know what scares you in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.